Every Jamaican deserves a place to call their own home. Our plans are to make that a reality. We don't bulldoze people's homes, we build them. We're going to restore the special low interest rates for public sector workers. We're going to introduce a 3-month moratorium period after you buy the house, so you have some time to furnish it and do little fixing up before you have to start making your mortgage payments. And we'll increase the debt service ratio for public sector workers so that you can qualify for a bigger mortgage loan. We're really thinking about you guys. And for our young people, we have the Young Owners Fund, a $1 billion annual fund within the NHT, where anyone up to 35 who's buying a house for the first time, if they're an NHT contributor for at least 2 years, can get a grant of $500,000 towards the deposit on the house. And if you're a person who is working but can't produce a pay slip because you're in the informal economy, or you're struggling to save enough for a deposit for a home, we have the rent-to-own plan, where you can go into the house as a tenant, paying rent equal to the mortgage, and after 6 months, if you can establish your capacity to pay the rent on time, you'll be eligible for the mortgage. You can draw down the loan and become an owner of the house and step up in life. Because housing is not just a luxury for the few, it's a must for everyone.
Today we had the handover ceremony for the rules program, where some persons would have been assessed and some persons would have received benefits today. Not everybody would have gotten today, but it's a program where quite a number of persons will be benefiting from this program. However, we're not sure of how the beneficiaries were chosen. I know the assessments were done by the ministry, and they would have been the ones now to recommend those persons who would have gotten the benefits. It was only last night where we received some information from the ministry as to the beneficiaries. So I really haven't gone through a listing as yet, because it was a listing for Westmoreland overall. It's not like it was a separate constituency listing. So I would have to sift through the list to find out now who are the persons really who will be benefited from the program. But as I heard the minister state, there are quite a few persons who will benefit. And I guess as we go along, we will be able to identify the persons who were selected. As I said, it was the ministry who would have selected these persons. So I want persons to understand that even though the assessments were done, as you know, they were done by the ministry, we don't have any control over the persons who would be getting the benefits. It's all up to the ministry. So persons have to understand that. And as we said, we're very appreciative though of what is happening, because the only issue I have been having from day one is the length of time it is taking. And we are 4 months now since the hurricane, and we are doing this program today. So we are really grateful it is happening, but we really would have wanted it to happen before, as in the case of everybody who is out there and really requiring this level of benefit. So we'll have to just give thanks to what is happening, and we look forward to more persons benefiting as we go along. I know the assessments are still ongoing. I think this weekend is the ending of February, I think, is the deadline for these assessments to be done. So anybody who is listening to this who have not yet been assessed, please reach out to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security so that you can get assessed this week before the deadline passes.
Thank you very much.
Is a release from the People's National Party Media Unit.
This is M.P Purkiss, Opposition spokesperson on tourism and linkages. Today I am speaking out about a systematic injustice that has been hiding in plain sight for far too long. Right now, hundreds of our hotel workers are sitting at home in the wake of Hurricane Melissa, facing absolute uncertainty about their futures. They don't know if they have a job to go back to, and that is a disgrace. Here is the reality we must confront. Up to 90% of Jamaica's hotel workers are employed on rolling short-term contracts. They work 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year, and then, just before they qualify for the protections they are legally entitled to, they are given a calculated contract break. An artificial gap designed specifically to reset the clock so the employer can deny them their rights. Let me be clear, this is not flexible working. This is the legal trap. Hurricane Melissa has exposed just how cruel this system is. Workers who have given years of loyal service to the same property now face the very real possibility that their contracts simply won't be renewed. But the storm did not create this vulnerability. The contract system did. And the injustice runs even deeper because their employment history looks like a series of broken contracts on paper. These workers cannot properly benefit from the national insurance scheme they have paid into. They cannot access bank loans. They cannot secure a mortgage. They have built Jamaica's most valuable export industry, yet they cannot build a home of their own. I am calling directly on the Minister of Labour and the Minister of Tourism to act without delay. We need to amend the legislation now to recognize continuity of employment based on the actual working relationship, not the contractual tricks designed to evade it. Our tourism workers have served this industry and this country with absolute distinction. They deserve the full protection of our laws, not a system engineered to rob them of their rights. The time for action is now.
At pnp.org.jm or check us out on Facebook at Jamaica PNP.
Different scandals, same minister, same themes, overpricing, conflicts of interest, weak documentation, and a refusal to answer straight questions. Add to all of this the $31 million neurosurgical drill, a Medtronic EM800 procured for the Bustamante Hospital for Children, where I would have pointed out at the time that comparable drills are listed internationally at around $3 to $5 million. The Southeast Regional Health Authority, SARA, approved the $31 million purchase, and court filings later showed that the ministry itself was the importer, saving that company millions of dollars in duty. Yet, that role was never clearly disclosed in public statements. Toxic fumes forced the closure of key areas of the Cornwall Regional Hospital. 9 years later, rehabilitation works remain incomplete with ballooning costs and repeated missed deadlines. This is a symbol of chronic mismanagement and a failure to deliver. $24 billion later, after an initial estimate of $2 billion, we are still without a functioning Cornwall Regional Hospital, a hospital where up to recently, doctors and nurses have staged protests about their working conditions. Contracts were being taken away from existing providers and given to Archer's Funeral Home for the storage of bodies outside of the Kingston and St. Andrew region. Taking bodies from KPH and storing them in Spanish Town at the funeral home owned by a JLP councillor in the Minister of Health's constituency did not sit well with the Jamaican public. This prompted allegations of political favoritism that the minister has repeatedly denied. Blue Zone, a company that is owned by the Minister of Health, imported rice that was found to be below the standard grading of the Bureau of Standards. Yet, the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority cleared it the same day. The brief that we have looked at notes a serious conflict of interest and regulatory leniency. No one can explain to this day why a rice would be exempted from the usual scrutiny that other importers face. To this day, nobody has given a satisfactory explanation as to rice labeled by the Bureau of Standards Jamaica as not meeting the classification and the standards it set out was taken off the ports and distributed to an unsuspecting public. Jamaica Moves campaign came under scrutiny by the Integrity Commission. The IC found procurement breaches in 15 contracts worth $78.6 million, all awarded using direct contracting. And they concluded that the minister's role created a perceived advancement of private interest for Market Me Consulting. Neonatal deaths at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital have continued to embarrass the Ministry of Health. In 2022, 11 babies died in a Klebsiella outbreak, followed by 24 newborn deaths in 24 days in 2025. The minister repeatedly avoided directly answering in Parliament when asked when he first knew about the deaths in 2022, and in 2025, it was just dismissed as babies being premature. Despite the multiple reports across Jamaica, reports that still haunt many to this day, that oxygen ran out, the Ministry of Health has refused to accept responsibility for not ordering enough oxygen from the suppliers. Now, in 2026, the Auditor General finds that at the University Hospital of the West Indies, under the ministry's watch, 51 contracts worth $500 million have no procurement records, and that the hospital's tax-exempt status was misused to import goods for private entities. Different scandals, same minister, same themes, overpricing, conflicts of interest, weak documentation, and a refusal to answer straight questions.
Comrades, know the history, feel the victory. Time go, people, know the history, feel the victory.